Hey guys, how you doing today? Today's topic is going to be Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Doors. Today's topic is going to be over Greenlights by Matthew McConaughey. We get really deep in talking about what green lights mean to us and the perspectives that Matthew McConaughey's and how that really has launched us into a great mindset moving forward. This is a really great one. Thank you so much for tuning in today, wherever you may be. Let's continue to open the doors in our own lives and enjoy. Hey guys, Nick here.
What's going on, y'all? Zach here.
We're just two guys trying to make the world a better place.
And welcome to The Doors.
Hello, and welcome back to episode 36 of The Doors, where we are the developers of our own opportunities, reinventing success. I'm your host right here, Nicholas Sternloff, with my co-host,
Zachary Otts.
Y'all, and we're here to bring some knowledge to you. We're going to lay it on you today. So, first off, I want to let you guys know that there are spoilers to what we're be talking about coming up right now. Our topic today is Matthew McConaughey's Greenlights. And the reason why is because if you've read this book, you understand. That's the best way I can put it. I've never seen or read a book that's not there to tell you something, but there to inform you of what someone's been through and the facts of their lives and how you can apply what he's learned throughout his life into yours as well. And that gets me into what a green light is and what this is literally taken from his book, that first paragraph in this chapter. What is a green light? Green lights mean go, advance, carry on, continue. On the road, they're set up to give the flow of traffic the right of way. And when scheduled properly, more vehicles catch more green lights in succession. They say proceed. And this could be anything, y'all. This can be anything from the biggest of moves of you getting promoted. This could be to literal green light turning green as you pulled up to the intersection.
Mm-hmm. Or even getting that parking spot at your local Walmart.
Rockstar parking. I know exactly what you mean. It means go. It means that we're moving forward. And I want you to just keep that in the back of your head right there for a minute before I ask you a question. Because green farts, green farts. See, that was a good one, right? Okay. Green lights don't interfere with our direction. What they do is butt. Goodness gracious, green farts and butts today. But green
the best of us, man.
Right, the best of us. But green lights can also be disguised as yellow and red lights, and that's important because I want you to. If I go back and look at some of the things that I've been through, and I'm like, dude, this sounds like such a great idea. Like, I'm so excited to go party tonight. Here, I'm going to give you an example. I'm never going to the Electric Cowboy in Clarksville, Tennessee again because it was set up as a green light for me. It was this bar, this rootin', tootin', dancing, shooting, kabootin' place was set up as a green light for me. It was like, hey, yeah, let's go hang out. Let's have some fun. Sounds like some great things. I'm moving forward. First time I went, my buddy got a DUI. Second time I went, one of my buddies died. Third time, I'm not risking it. It's going to be me. The green lights were set up as yellow and red lights. It wasn't meant to be. I'm not supposed to go back there. But that's important because moving into these red lights and these yellow lights, they say no, but sometimes give us what we need. I don't need to go back to that place because I'm feared for my life. If I go back to the Electric Cowboy, I'm probably going to die. I know it sounds funny in my head and your head, but I'm not going to risk it. But
Think about it, though.
Okay, go ahead.
It could even be that group of people that you know you shouldn't be hanging around, but you still do. You know what I mean? Or you go to that certain place where these people are hanging out at, and you know you shouldn't be there. It's classic, teenage drama when you're, trying to get away from your parents. So you go to someone else's house and you lie about where you're staying, But it's really interesting, and going off of your viewpoint, Nick, you have to see the importance of the red and the yellow lights. But I think that's one thing that as people, at least, in my understanding, we misconstrue those all the time. It's like, we'll do the victim thing, It's like, oh man, I couldn't be first in line. Maybe it wasn't meant for you to spend that money, or, I wanted to make this big leap, these big bounding leaps, and I just couldn't. Like, they're disguised in these red and yellow lights. But I'm gonna let Nick continue with that.
But it's so important because, like, what if that's divine intervention? What if that's something telling you don't need to be there? What if that's leading you in the direction you're supposed to be in, the flow state, whatever it may be, whatever you want to call it? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just free choice. The idea that we have the choice of free will at all. But it's guided me in directions that have allowed me to do and be where I'm at today. I think that's important.
It's just, and when you're catching these green lights, man, you really feel like you're in this place of purpose. You're in this place of passion, this place of almost grateful to be alive in a way. And what I really admired about this book was that it had all these like different nuggets of wisdom in them. That's what I like to call them. And you just flip throughout it, and you can learn so much from just the little squares that he has in this book. And
I think
what is interesting is
they bring really great context to the conversation.
They do, don't they?
Mm-hmm. But that was so interesting about there's so many ways to catch green lights. Any possible movement forward, before I even answer that question, I want you to ask me. I want you to really think about this real quick. And Zach, I'll ask the question to you, but I want you guys who are listening to think about what this is for you as well. And this is why we're the Doors, and the reason why we're thinking about things is we want to help reinvent success in your own life. And I want you to think about this. What do you consider going, or what do you consider moving forward? And I want you to answer that real quick, Zach.
You said, what do I consider moving forward?
Yeah.
I think that's got to be, it's your perspective of it. And it's the same thing that, you and I talk about, Nick, with success. It's a reinventing. It's a reinventing of yourself. So, for me, what's a step forward? A step forward could be anything. And that's what a green light could be. A green light could be absolutely anything. And these moving forward, like you're talking about, Nick, it could be something so simple as sticking to a promise you made, or sticking to something that you made, a promise you made to yourself, or doing something better for your neighbor, something better for the people around you. Like, to me, those are like little steps forward that you can take without almost any effort. But
it's continue really cool. Continue on. Sorry.
But it could be in any sort of thing, support, praise, gifts, smack on the booty, hey girl, a little whistle, whatever it is, it can go a long way. And I think what's most important is recognizing these, though. And when you live from a place of purpose, I feel like you're more inclined to be able to recognize that. But he was going in here throughout his career and getting to the point, Nick, we were talking about this too, where he was acting a lot, and he was getting to he just bought his first house, and his maid, I think it was, had ironed his jeans.
It was his maid, and she ironed his jeans. Yep.
Yeah. Nick, do you remember the full thing of this?
I remember the key points of it. It was Another important part about what he's trying to say was basically that the maid asked him, was coming around doing all these things for him, cleaning his room, cleaning his house, folding his jeans, ironing his jeans. They had a crease down the center. And he was talking to this girl on a date, and he was like talking about all the things that he's doing because he has the ability to now. And she goes, "Wow, she irons your jeans. That's pretty cool if you want your jeans ironed." And then he sat there and thought about it and was like, do I want my jeans ironed? Wait, what? Why would I want my jeans ironed? Wait, is it just because I can have these things? Sometimes what he's saying is that it's important to realize, of course, we can have things that we want, or sometimes there are things that are just readily available to us, but we don't always need that. Or do we really want that? And that leads us into this point, how did I get here? And on page 8, it talks about this, because how did Matthew McConaughey get to the point where he even had his jeans ironed? Like, how do you get, like, that's where you're questioning, like, how did you get to that point where, like, I don't want my jeans ironed? Like, just what? Who needs that? Like, we don't need to press a line into our jeans, and that's where he realizes. So this, back to page 8, to reiterate the theories of and topics he's talking about, is sometimes you got to go back to go forward. And I don't mean going back to reminisce or choose ghosts. I mean go back to see where you came from, where you've been, and how you got here. And he wrote that on page 8. And it's just, sometimes, I wrote this down, sometimes we/me considering it all, do we do this enough? Do we revisit these ideologies, these places we've been, just to see where we are now, and almost reinforce who we are? Do you know what I mean, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, it's going right along with, and what I loved about Matthew McConaughey in this memoir, this love letter that he wrote, and that's what he says in here. It's a love letter to his life. No one's, and what I took away from it is no one's purpose is the same. It's going to be unique to you, and it's a gift bestowed to us by our Creator. But I think it's our part in that to always try to explore. You know what I mean? You have to always continue to explore and reinvent yourself. So I really love the topic that he put in the book about the 21-day walkabouts, and it's honestly something I want to do in my life, and hopefully I can give you guys some advice on it one day. But it's really interesting because he would go to these different places, and I remember one in particular. It was a great lesson that he got to learn. So he went on this 21-day walkabout. Hang on, let me flip to the correct page. Bow, bow, bow. All right, so he was talking about like defining success for yourself, and he went to this voodoo shop right in New Orleans. And New Orleans is really famous, for all the voodoo stuff. They're really famous for Mardi Gras, for the fried crawfish. I hear are really good. But he walked by this old medicine woman, and it had all these different columns with labels, defining like what this magic potion would give you. It had all these different things, fertility, health, family, legal help, energy, forgiveness, speed, strength, and then
You want to know what was the one that was sold out?
What was it, Nick?
Money.
Money. That just makes you think, like, what society have we built where that is the truth that we want. That is the thing that we crave the most is money. It's not experiences, it's not joy, it's not happiness or friendship. It's cold hard cash. It's the all about the Benjamins, baby. But Nick, I gotta ask the question: where does putting all your faith in material, like, where does that lead you? Like, do you think that that is our ultimate purpose for being here? Is to just collect cold hard cash?
I mean, I'm gonna speak at it at a different perspective because I can't say that I know what that feels like. I can't. I don't hold most of my things as like as super valuable in my life. Like I have the most valuable pieces of material things that I have in this world: my computer, my microphone, my phone, my camera, my car, and maybe some of my guitars and things. But those aren't, I mean, they matter to me, don't get me wrong, but that's not where my happiness comes from. That's not what gets me up in the morning and makes me want to pursue my dreams. Like I want, sometimes the most precious things in life, the things that we hold dearest to us, are the things that don't cost any money at all.
Yeah. To me, man, it's just like, we talk about reinventing success and what is success to you, man. I love money too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that money's not a good thing. It can get you a lot of stuff, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. But I feel like there comes to a point where if that's all you're motivated by, it's eventually going to burn out. I feel like, there's always more and more money to be made, but at
Well,
what
I'll
point
give
do you have
I'll,
much?
I'll give you an example. Like, so for my summer internship, I'm going to be door-to-door sales with Arusa Marketing we'll be contracting out for a company called Massey Pest Control in Houston, Texas for 4 months. That's for what I'm going to be doing. And I have a couple goals set for this. And one of the major ones was I wanted to pay off my student loans. But I also been writing down in a journal for a very long time that I wanted to make $70,000 in 2021. And I was like, dude, I could totally knock this out from this internship. I could definitely make this point. And like one of the reasons why I even started this internship was not for money. It was to gain the skill of actually being able to sell to someone and getting a crash course in it. Dude, it's going to be hard as hell, but I'm going to be on a door trying to convince someone to buy something that they didn't know they needed. And I want to acquire that skill. But a while back ago, I'd say probably a month, I sat there and other people were making me question my own beliefs into why I wanted to do this, but as well as myself. I was like, damn, like, I don't know if I could do this. I don't know if I'm going to go out there and be able to do this. And it was harbored by the fact that I was aiming for a monetary value. I was aiming to accomplish something that if I accomplished, I wouldn't feel good enough because I'd want more. And if I didn't accomplish, I'd feel under and overwhelmed by the circumstances and not be able to accomplish my goals. So I started thinking, is this a green light? What's the green light behind the movements that I'm trying to make? And like, this is why this book has really helped. Is like, that's not the movement. That's not the motive I'm here for. The real reason I'm here is to acquire this skill to become a better individual in the future.
Exactly. And if the money comes with it, then hell yes. Like, good, yes, we got money to spend. Let's do it. But
yeah,
you gotta be in the love for what you do,
And this is Matthew McConaughey talks about a really great point in this is when he has to go and stay with the doolies. There's he ends up going on like a foreign exchange program to live in another country and work for a year. And he got to go to Australia, and he ends up with this family called the Doolies. And he ended up staying with them for the first 6 months. And for that 6 months, he was scrutinized. He was put into a circumstance that was definitely not ideal. He had to live in a very uncomfortable space for these 6 months until he got himself out of it. But I'm relating this to this because what can we learn from his situation? like being in a comfortable situation isn't always what you want to be in, but sometimes those situations you can't get out of it. You have to endure those moments. And then afterwards you can laugh at it. You can be like, damn, I made it through that. Like, it wasn't fun, but I did it. And that grit and the strength to get through that helps you become a stronger person. It helps develop you into who you should be. You don't need that. You don't want to be in that situation ever again, but you put yourself through it. You conquer it. You did it. And this can be applied to so many different ways. And that's what I'm talking about, my mindset and for the money in that moment. Like, I conquered that. Like, that's not leading me. That's leading me to a yellow light. It's leading me to a red light. That's leading me to a place where I'm not going to be mentally stable or not strong enough to hold that notion. I can be competitive. I can try to be the best I can be, but chasing something that's not going to put me in a good mind space, putting me in a good headspace, putting me in a good wherever I need to be. Sometimes you deal with those situations. Sometimes you need to change the way you think.
Exactly. You know, sometimes they tell you that, you know, if you aim at success, sometimes you'll miss it. Just because you're aiming at it so much, you're worried about that constant. And
well, just like, hey, real quick, just like we talked about last week. Just like we talked about last week. 1 second, real quick. Oh my gosh, I've written a lot in the last couple of weeks. The logotherapy, just like we're talking about this. Making a personal tragedy into a triumph. That's a good point, but that's not what I'm trying to say. Oh, happiness and success cannot be obtained. They cannot be pursued. It's a state of being. And you can't aim for success. You can't aim for happiness. You have to realize and put yourself in scenarios and mindsets and things that really mean show that you're successful. I'm successful because I'm making moves about my dream. I'm successful because I'm putting time and effort into accomplish something. I'm putting energy and momentum behind the things that I want to do and become, and that's going to make me take steps and green lights to where I need to be.
And be thankful because that taking pride in yourself is not a bad thing. You know, there's a thin line between being cocky and confident. Be confident, because when we have some confidence in ourselves, man, and we come from a place of purpose, there's nothing that we cannot accomplish. Even when you're in those storms, you know, we talk about those, about anchoring yourself down. Prioritize who you are. This is one of the things I constantly have to remind myself. And I called Nick the other day, man, because I was like, man, like, I'm just worried, like, stuff's going on. You know, I have, you know, work going on, and we've been out a couple of days because of the weather, and, you know, this financial burden's building up, and you know, you just want it to be taken care of, and you're just worried about it so much. But you realize that you spend all your time in peace worrying about those things instead of letting them go. And I really loved one of the things that Matthew McConaughey talked about in here, and it was just keep living. You just have to keep on living and do the very best with what you have. And he said, relatively, we are living. Life is our resume, and it is our story to tell. And the choices we make write the chapters. And I got to ask you today. I've got to ask each and every one of you, and Nick, I want you to answer this question. Is there a way that we can constantly catch those green lights in our life? Is there a way that we can bring out our utmost potential? And if there is, how do we become consistent at it?
I'm going to say that you have fluctuations. There are going to be times, I'm going to relate this to me, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to go for almost, I'm going to write this down so I can explain this while I do it, okay? Almost a bell curve. If you don't know what a bell curve is, it's like it goes from very little to more in the center and then very little down again. And I can draw a line down the middle. And our two extremes here are going to be me in a super fluid state and me in not a fluid state. And where you're most likely going to spend your time is in between that. And I think what's important is, again, if you're able to live in the moment, like Matthew McConaughey says, or understand the moment, what you can do is either move away from these places of non-flow state, and you can try to move into them. But you're not always going to be able to stay into these places. You're not always going to be able to be your ideal self. What you can do is always strive to be it. And that's important. So the more you can strive to be in this flow state, I will say more likely it's probably going to be habitual, and you can get back into it. Like today, my home life right now, like, is not bad, but it's like I got hectic things just going on around me, and I think there's this little bit of tension between a lot of people. So like I had to do this podcast today, and like to be in this state of mind and try to talk about these things, sometimes not the easiest. But what I did is I finished cleaning my room. I got myself, I was like, okay, what's going to put me in this state that allows me to be the best person I can be? Threw some music on, threw a candle. I sat down and I just allowed myself to breathe. And you could say it was meditation, but I just allowed myself to be in that moment and move away from the things that were harboring my momentum.
But that's what it is. And hang on one second before you continue. That's what meditation is. It literally means to become familiar with. And you can quote me on that, to become familiar with. So when you're meditating, you don't have to do anything. That's what's so great about it is nothing really does make sense. And you'll have to write that out to really get that. But doing nothing sometimes is the best policy. And as a kid and as a young adult, you're growing up and you're like, nah, man, like, yeah, we got to be constantly moving. Our brains constantly have to be doing something. No, it doesn't.
I will say,
average
I just watched a whole 1 hour lecture in the Royal Institutes about fields and why they are the things that make up reality in itself. And we can go into that another time. It's a really interesting video. But what's so interesting is that what we realized through science, and this is a good point because it makes it into meditation, is that when nothing exists in a space, something's still happening. And I know that sounds fucking crazy, but this correlates very well with meditation. When nothing is going on inside your head, something's still going on. Things are still happening. And that's where it's important to realize, what are those things that are happening? How do we address those? And how do we move forward?
Yeah, man. You see it all the time. And I'm a big gym guy, and I'm a martial artist. I love to train and push my limits. And you get to see who people are when they're pushed and they're uncomfortable. And I think what's really interesting about this memoir, and what's interesting about, kind of how he wrote it, was and the different roles that he had to take on in acting. And this is what I really admire about actors, is they have to shed weight or gain weight or live in a certain environment for them to be able to portray these different roles. And there was one specifically in this book that he was writing about, and it was Reign of Fire. And he had to be that big burly guy who was hunting dragons and stuff, and he was just doing all this wild stuff. But it really made me sit there and think, it's like, you have the power right now to change who you are completely, to completely evolve, to completely transcend who you are. And I think it's something that's a little bit mind-blowing sometimes. But it's always interesting to see what we can achieve as people, what we have achieved so far.
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali always had a saying, Nick, and I really like this. He said, I hated every minute of training, but I did it every day because I wanted to live life as a champion. And I feel like that's that mindset that you have to have,
Well, I mean,
but
okay, go for the question.
All right. So do you have a situation, he was talking about where he developed outlaw logic and how that was pretty much like his parents' own logic and everything like that. You kind of know what I'm talking about?
A little bit, yes.
Okay. So do you think as people we get set in certain ways? Do we develop our own outlaw logic?
I mean, I think that yes. I think that we learn and adapt to the situations and environments around us, and especially like here's a good example, like just a very very small thing, but it ends up making big steps. My buddy, he likes saying the word heinous. He like I don't know why. He's just like, oh, that's heinous. But like he says it so often. I only got to see him for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, but now it's stuck in my head and I say it. We develop logic based upon the environments and the situations we're put in, and that that leads on to outlaw logic. If you look at Matthew McConaughey's point, this is my favorite part of his book because I love this line in this scene. He talks about his first line as an actor on the stage on the set of Dazed and Confused, where he's Wooderson, and basically he's sitting there and he was on stage just to look at. The whole goal was just to get him dressed up and everything, and he was sitting there and he had his ideal person he was trying to be. He's trying to be Wooderson, blah blah. And his director walks up and goes, "Hey, he's like he says this. He goes, I know Wooderson's probably been with a topical hot high school chicks. He said cheerleaders, majorettes, girls like that. But do you have any interest in redhead intellectual?" He goes, "Sure, man. Wooderson likes all kinds of chicks." And so what this guy had him do is he's like, "All right, I want you to just throw this into yourself in this environment, and do that. Be who you are based upon the situations and things that you have been in." And so he put himself, he's like, give me 30 minutes. He walked off stage, walked around and put himself in these scenarios that Wooderson would have been in. And so what he had him do is he had him drive up to the car of this redhead. And her name's Cynthia. And so what he does is he sits there, goes, he does all these things, and he goes, okay. Now, there were no lines written in for Wooderson at all in this moment. And this is his first time on film set, and he'd never done this before. So anxious, he started going back over in his head who he was. Who's my man? Who's Wooderson? What do I love? I love my car. Well, I'm in my 70s Chevelle. That's one. I love getting high. Well, Slater's riding the shotgun, and he's always got a doobie rolled up. That's two. I love rock and roll. Well, I've got Nugent's Stranglehold on the 8-track. That's three. And that's when I heard action. I looked up across this parking lot at Cynthia, the redhead intellectual. I said to myself, and I love chicks. As I pulled up to the car and drive and slowly pulled out, thought to myself, well, I've got 3 out of the 4, and I'm headed for the 4th. And he said, all right. He said aloud, all right, all right, all right. And that's where that came from. And everyone knows. Exactly. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that he says that. Everyone knows Matthew McConaughey, all right, all right, all right. But again, that is outlaw law. That is his outlaw logic. That was him breaking it down based upon the circumstances and situation that he's been in.
Oh, it's interesting, man. These green lights, they mold us. They prepare us, and it's almost offering us a little bit of insight into our decisions. Like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? And I think it's really important that we allow these green, red, and yellow lights to shape our goals, to allow meaning to be created, and furthermore, give us a direction to go in. And that's what I hope this does for you guys. That I hope you guys catch all the green lights in your life. Nick, you got anything else, bro?
Y'all, I would really encourage you to sit down and grab this book. I learned a lot from it about how I can address the situations and things I go through. And I started journaling before I started reading Greenlights, but I think that now that I've read Greenlights, it makes it all that much more important that I continue to do so. And I just got halfway through my journal. I couldn't be more proud of myself, and it's just very exciting to be able to have all this information. So I urge you to do that. Other than that, y'all, thank you again for always supporting us as much as you do, and we love that what we're doing is what we love. So.
Yeah, you guys, y'all are the bread and butter. Y'all are the reason why we want to do this. Y'all keep us motivated and inspired. And I just want to leave you guys with a quote, Henry David Thoreau. Success usually comes to those who are too busy to be looking for it. And I want you guys to know that there's power. There's power in your dreams. There's power in your aspirations. Continue to work hard, and let's open some doors.
Damn right. Bye. That was really loud. Holy shit.